Good evening. In this video, I'll be explaining the part one of my POE. I started off by importing the scanner that I want to be using. I then followed it up with the string data types of the username, the password, and the phone number. These are all inputs that will allow the user to register. In the main method, we're going to put the scanner input for now. I then created a class called login. In this class, I'll be using the methods provided in the POE for this class. So first off, we're going to talk about the instance variables, which are used to store the username and password after the user registers it. The first method we're going to be having a look at is the check username. What this method does, it basically implements the username rules. And the rule is that the username should have an underscore and 5 characters. And we're pretty much gonna do the same thing for the next method, which is check password complexity, which also implements the password rules, and the return value should be the actual rule of the password, which is the password having 8 characters, should include a capital letter and a special letter. Same with the check for cell phone number method, which implements the phone number rules and returns returns the rules that the phone number should have, which is starting with an international code of +27 and a phone number length of 12. We then head over to the register user method. This method is basically returns the messages you should get for registration. We're gonna start by using the if condition and then check username to verify if the username is valid or not. If the username isn't valid, it returns that the username is not correctly formatted. Please ensure that your username has an underscore and is no more than 5 characters in length. And it does the same for password complexity. It checks the password. If the password is not correctly formatted, it should have at least 8 characters, a capital letter, a number, and a special character. Again, with the phone number, if incorrectly formatted or does not contain an international code. And then after that, we have these data types again. This is basically just for storing the entered data. And if the user succeeds in registering, this is the return they should get. We have the public boolean, the login user method, which basically checks the login details and returns the stored values. We then have the public return login status. That method we have for returning the login messages. So if the message is successful, it sends you this welcome plus the username plus the stored username. If the login succeeds, if the login does not succeed, it'll ask you to please try again because the username or password is incorrect. We then move on over back onto the chat app login where we first started, and then we'll implement the class login we just worked in now. Then we head over to print out like what the user should enter. So they should enter the username, then we store the user output, enter your password, stores user input, enter the phone number, it stores user input. And then we head on over to our if condition. This condition checks was basically creating the username requirements. If the user's username is successful, it'll say the username has successfully been captured. But if it's been entered incorrectly, it'll say the username is not correctly formatted and that it should have an underscore and not more than 5 characters in length. We're going to be doing the same thing for the password length, which should be 8 characters or more, have a capital letter, a number, or a special character. If the password is successfully password is successfully entered, it'll say password is successfully captured. If it's not entered properly, it'll say password is not correctly formatted and should be formatted correctly. We're going to be doing the exact same thing for the phone number, but this time the requirement is that it should start with the international code of +27 and the length should be 12 digits. It'll return that the cell phone number has been successfully added if entered properly, but will return that the cell phone number is not correctly formatted or does not contain an international code. We then head on over to the unit test. Over here, I implemented the login class so we can access it again. And then now for the first test, we're going to be testing the username test, the first method. Before going over all of them, I just want to test and show you that everything works. Yeah, five tests run. Yeah, to explain the first method, I'm gonna go back to my login class to show you that it's still the first method. Check username. I'll go back to the unit test. We're gonna be using the boolean expected value, which basically predicts what the result should be, and the boolean actual is what the method should actually return. Then assert equals basically just it gives back what the test passes. For an example, the username that was given in the POE. I repeated this process for every method from the password up until the cell phone number until we reach the test logins the test login user. To my knowledge, it tests the login user method when it succeeds, and the test login user fail tests the login user method when it fails. And we had to implement the register user from the login class, which basically registers the user using the examples that we were given in the POE for the username, the password, and the phone number. And then again, we use the Boolean expected and the Boolean actual. But this time for the actual, we take in the login user and use the username we were given and the password we were given. We do that for when it succeeds, and for when it fails, we do the opposite. The Boolean explicit becomes false. And for the login user, I wrote incorrect. And after doing all that, when we run the chat app logins, I'm gonna be using the examples of the POE for the username, the password, and the phone number. And it says the username has been successfully captured, password has been successfully captured, and the cell phone number has been successfully added. And it gives you the summary of the username, the password, and the phone number. Thank you for taking this time to watch.